I mean, Zach is so little to not have a dad.
Yeah, it sucks. I'm sorry, love.
And, he was murdered. Ugh, it just, creeps me out.
When it comes to Netflix's hit dramedy, Ginny and Georgia, the story is far from slowing down. In fact, Brianne Howie, who plays the infamous Georgia herself, has given fans a pretty hopeful update about what's next. After Season 3 dropped with its usual roller coaster of drama, emotions, and shocking turns, many viewers were left wondering if they'd have to wait ages for news about the next chapter. Because the show is known for leaving us hanging on huge cliffhangers, it wasn't surprising that Season 3 ended with yet another bombshell moment. But what's different this time is that fans don't have to sit in suspense about whether the show will actually continue. Back in 2023, Netflix handed Ginny and Georgia a 2-season renewal, which was a major relief for the cast and viewers alike. It meant not just Season 3, but also a guaranteed Season 4. That early confirmation really shifted things behind the scenes. Earlier this year, the writer's room for Season 4 officially got to work, laying out the groundwork for where Ginny, Georgia, and their chaotic family saga will go next. And recently, in an interview on Collider's Ladies' Night, Brianne Howie revealed that production on Season 4 is set to start later this year. For her, that kind of certainty was rare. She explained that usually actors and crews never know if their work will get another season until much later, sometimes even after episodes have already aired. But in this case, she knew before Season 3 even hit Netflix that the story would keep going. Howie described that as a real privilege because it let her relax into the character more. Instead of playing scenes while worrying about whether she was wrapping up a story or leaving something unfinished, she could trust that there was more time to let the characters breathe. As she put it, when you know there's more story to tell, you can sink deeper into the role because you understand how certain payoffs will land later on. It's kind of creative confidence that not many shows get to experience, and it's clearly setting Ginny and Georgia up for a strong continuation. Now, what does all of this mean for fans who are impatiently waiting for Season 4? Well, there's actually good news. Netflix originals have a bit of a reputation for making viewers wait, sometimes 2, even 3 years between seasons. And frustratingly, Ginny and Georgia has followed that pattern so far. There was roughly a 2-year gap between the release of Season 1 and Season 2, and then about 2.5 years before Season 3 showed up. That kind of long break can make it tough for a show to keep its momentum because people's excitement can cool down while they wait. But here's the thing. This is the first time Ginny and Georgia has gotten an early renewal like this, and Howie's comments make it sound like things are moving along at a much steadier pace. Collider reported that producing a 10-episode season of the show typically takes around 5 months to film, followed by about 9 months in post-production. So in theory, if Netflix and the creative team stick to a tighter schedule, the turnaround could be faster this time. Now, it's still unlikely we'll see the new season immediately, but the idea is that Season 4 could arrive at the end of next year or maybe early 2027. That's around an 18-month wait, which might sound long, but it's actually much shorter compared to the gaps we've had before. So if Netflix is serious about keeping the hype alive and riding the wave of excitement Season 3 generated, pushing for this quicker timeline could really work in the show's favor. Of course, while scheduling is always a big question, the bigger focus is on what Season 4 will actually bring. And judging by where things left off, the possibilities are pretty wild. Season 3 put Georgia through the ringer with her murder trial at the center of all the drama. Even though she was acquitted, it was obvious that nothing about her life could ever be normal again. Her family was already falling apart under the pressure of national attention, and the cracks in her relationships with her kids only grew deeper. One of the big takeaways from Season 3 is just how much Georgia struggles to truly protect her children. She loves Ginny and Austin, and she's willing to do almost anything for them, but the sad truth is that she can't protect them from herself. Her manipulative behavior, her shady decisions, and her willingness to cross dangerous lines have created an environment that is anything but safe. That's why we saw Austin make the heartbreaking choice to put his dad in jail, thinking it would save his mom, even though it was Ginny who pushed him to do it. These are the kinds of moments that highlight how toxic Georgia's world has become for her kids. But here's where things get even more complicated. Despite Ginny's protests and her constant determination to be different from her mother, Season 3 dropped hints that she's slowly becoming just like Georgia. It's the sort of generational cycle that the show loves to explore because it creates messy drama but also deep emotional stakes. Season 4 seems ready to flip the script, possibly letting Ginny step into the role of schemer while Georgia might actually be trying to turn over a new leaf. Imagine it. Georgia, who spent her whole life bending rules and manipulating people, could actually be aiming for redemption. There's even speculation she might run for mayor, potentially against her ex-husband Paul, which would be juicy drama all on its own. Meanwhile, Ginny, who always swore she wouldn't become her mom, might find herself making manipulative and damaging choices to get what she wants. It's a fascinating role reversal, and it raises questions about how Austin will cope too. Will he carry guilt for what he did in court? How will another baby and another baby daddy complicate Georgia's already chaotic family life? Season 3 gave us some big moments that hinted at Georgia's potential for change. At the very end, when she realizes the odds of being found innocent were slim, she actually cut her ankle monitor and ran. For a brief moment, it looked like she might leave her kids behind forever, but then she called Ginny and admitted that she just couldn't abandon them. That was a rare, selfless decision for Georgia, and it showed a sliver of growth. We also saw her refuse to throw people like Cynthia or Joe under the bus just to save herself, which suggested she might be capable of making better choices. At the same time, though, Ginny was heading in the opposite direction. She blackmailed Cynthia, she convinced Austin to testify against his dad, and she essentially orchestrated the outcome of the trial through manipulation. It was effective, but it was also exactly the kind of behavior Georgia has been criticized for. So even though Ginny has always wanted to prove she's not like her mother, Season 3 ended with her walking directly in Georgia's footsteps. This setup makes it very likely that Season 4 will dive deep into Ginny's moral struggles. She's all lined up to become the new Georgia while her mom tries to leave that version of herself behind. The irony is striking, and it ties right into the central themes of the show. Georgia has always believed that her actions, no matter how dark, were justified because they were for her family's survival. But now Ginny is starting to make similarly questionable choices, not necessarily for survival, but because she wants control. Of course, the big question is just how far Ginny will go. The show has to balance its dramatic twists with some level of believability, so while it would be shocking to see her actually commit murder, that might be too extreme. Still, if she continues down this path, it would really highlight how destructive Georgia's example has been. It might even force Ginny to confront the reality that becoming like her mother isn't something she can live with long term. So as Season 4 takes shape, it looks like the writers are preparing to push the characters into even more complex territory. Georgia's potential redemption arc could be fascinating to watch, especially if she genuinely tries to clean up her act and live more honestly. But Ginny's descent into scheming and manipulation could end up driving the central conflict of the next season. And in the middle of all this, we can't forget about Austin, who's still dealing with the trauma of his family's dysfunction. If there's one thing fans can count on, it's that Ginny and Georgia won't shy away from messy emotional storytelling. That's part of what makes the show so addictive. It mixes sharp humor with heartbreaking drama, and even though the characters often make frustrating choices, it's hard not to root for them anyway, because at the end of the day, it's a story about a family trying to survive, even when survival means making mistakes that will haunt them later. So with production gearing up for Season 4, there's a lot to look forward to. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.